You are listening to I Survived the Wild Outdoors podcast, where real outdoors men and women share their heroic tales of survival. I'm your host, Brad Mathewson, and this is their story. Today's guest is Matt Potratz. He has risen from the ashes of his former life as an elite backcountry snowmobile rider for 509 Films and has been reborn with a new purpose in life. His new focus is motivating people with his inspirational story and his positive outlook on life. Matt's world of mountain adventure came crashing down while he was filming a scene for the movie A Calculated Risk when an avalanche caught him by surprise and buried Matt and his sled in a white powder tomb on March 1st, 2009. He has since written a book about his experience called Two Hands. Hi, Matt. Can you tell us what happened that day?
Yeah, Brad. So, just leading up to that day, that I'd experienced a lot of success on a snowmobile, more or less on accident. Like, I just loved the sport, and I was good at it, and I enjoyed it, and I rode with passion, and that passion got recognized by the camera crew, and they asked me to come ride with them, and then from there, it just took off like wildfire. I rode in 7 different snowmobile films for the course of a 5-year period, and I was respected as one of the better ones in the field. I got rid of the top 5 guys in the world, and gotten to really do a lot of cool things. And so, but that day was we were filming for with Tuesday Productions for a segment in the movie A Calculated Risk, and that was we knew there was some risk for avalanches that day, so we were somewhat careful. We worked our way around the ridge of Twin Lakes area, and there's some chutes there called the Upper Twin Chutes, and we initially pulled up on those, and we set the camera up and get ready to film, and I got to the bottom of the chute and looked up it and just looked around, and I don't really have much memory of that moment, but the guys tell me that I rode back to the camera and just said, guys, I don't know why, but I just don't think it's right today. Let's don't do this stuff. Let's stay off the big stuff. Let's go to the Brundage side, which is the Brundage Reservoir side of the mountain. It's still towards Brundage Ski Hill, as a matter of fact. I said, let's go over there because the mountain's more littered with trees and rocks and things that typically hold the snow in place. So we don't see many big slides over there. So we worked our way over there, and there's one pretty good sized chute over there it's kind of not really wide open. It's got a chute and then breaks out on the small open face. And so we would kind of discuss it as a group and discuss it would be probably relatively safe in the snow conditions, because if you look at the pattern per se, is that you got one of those late February warm-ups when it warms up a little bit and it gets kind of slushy and freezes back again, and then that early March snowfall a couple feet, and so it's kind of, and we knew again there's risk of it, but people ridicule me sometimes for taking risks that day, but there's always risk, and so we did what we thought was right, and so I climbed the hill and I climbed the chute no problem, and I broke out of the chute on a little open face, and I was about ready to go over the top, and 25 yards above me, the snow fractured off about 2.5 feet deep, the entire mountain, and just took me off the sled and separated me, and I went off a small rock bluff and with my sled right behind me and down the hill a little ways and got crushed into a big snag about 2.5 feet on the stump, and then buried me below the snag. And so naturally, the group, of course, initially was like being near panic, right?
Yep.
Spread out on the mountain trying to find me. And initially they thought, oh my gosh, we got him here. We got him. He's over here. They saw my bright orange fly helmet sticking out of the snow. They rushed over to it, dug all the snow around it to pick up an empty helmet.
Oh no!
Like a fully intact chin strap, but no mat anywhere near it. But naturally, that's going to make somebody freak out. And what's weird is the chin strap was intact. I wore my chin strap apparently just loose enough to rip the helmet right off my head and force the blow. And so they eventually got their avalanche beacons out. We were trained with them. We knew how to use them. Everyone in the group had one. They turned the beacons on. The beacons began to lead in the right direction to walk. And one of the guys alerted the group and said, "Hey, I think I see his hand." They saw my fingers sticking out of the snow. But you just don't find a pair of fingers on a mountainside full of snow.
No.
Without some kind of guidance. That beacon saved my life. And so they found my fingers, and that was my what eventually became my paralyzed arm. That was the arm that was straight up in the snow, and they dug down a full arm's depth. Is how deep it was. It was the length of my arm, which I have pretty long arms. I'm 6'3", and so they dug down my arm's depth on my body, on my ears, nose, mouth, just packed with snow, and they knew that they were had to be careful not to move me because of the potential for injuries, right?
Yep.
And so they're very careful not to move very much. They knew they also had to get my airway opened up. So they took a finger and like fish took the snow out of my mouth to try to get me breathing. And I was breathing, making like a lot of weird like wheezing and hissing noises, and I was not conscious at all. I was completely unconscious. And so they did their best just to stabilize me, keep me in the hole until they get help there. And so they went to the top of the ridge. They were able to get just a light cell phone signal out. Got enough of a call out to get a helicopter out. And so they thought, yeah, we're on track, everything's good. Well, then right after that, it just, I guess the weather decided it was going to replenish the snow that fell off the mountain because it started snowing like crazy. So it's pounding snow. They're trying to keep me covered up. They got a big tarp over me and a blanket over me, and they the helicopter flew as far as they could, but couldn't. There's a perfect lake bed right by the avalanche site, but they couldn't fly there. They couldn't make it there. The snowstorm rejected them. So they initially they landed at McCall Airport and dispatched an ambulance up towards the ski hill to come by sled. And so, actually, I think the rescue crew had already been dispatched at that point. They were already going on the ground crew. So McCall Fire and EMS has a rescue crew. And so they headed out that way, and the helicopter again made an attempt to fly and still couldn't fly and flew as far as run to the ski hill. And so they kept coming on the ground, and they eventually got out to me and the EMS crew and said, hey, this is bad. We have to find a way to get a helicopter. They made a third attempt actually to fly out there. Still couldn't fly. There was just too much snow. And so they had to strap me to a sled. They got, of course, I mean, honestly, that crew that day did everything right, because had they moved me even an inch or two the wrong way, I would be paralyzed from the neck down. Like, that's how close it was.
Wow.
So they eventually got me in a sled and took me across snow quite a ways to Burnage Ski Hill, and got me in a helicopter, got me right to Boise. And I landed at the helipad on St. Alphonsus Medical Center in Boise 5 hours from the time of the avalanche. So a lot of time of
that is a lot of time.
Stressful time with I get my friends who do an incredible job of keeping their cool and then keeping themselves together and getting me down where I need to go. And so they got me in the hospital, and they right on the helipad they took the gurney of a helicopter, and what they'd all feared happened. I stopped breathing. And so obviously they rushed around, resuscitated me, got me breathing as fast as they could, got me breathing in and pushed me into ER to discover the avalanche had just crushed me. Like, they found a broken neck, C4, 5, and 6 is crushed. Compound fractured left femur just like blew my left femur in half, like there was a bone fragment from the X-ray.
Wow.
And then it crushed. Apparently, when I hit the tree square on it, crushed my left rib cage. And had I not had a tech vest on, I think it would have killed me for real, because it still crushed my left rib cage, broke my top 2 ribs off the sternum, off the middle bone.
Wow.
Right off the sternum. And collapsed my left lung. And then they were puzzled, like, how'd the helmet get off the guy's head with the chin strap intact? And there's actually abrasions up my face where the chin strap had run. There's so much force from the blow, I'd wore the chin strap just loose enough that it took the chin strap up my face and put abrasions up my face and ripped it right off my head. So the big concern was that I'd bounce off the tree like a rag doll, no protection around my brain.
Yep.
And so there's hematomas on both sides of my brain, which is blood clotting and blood pooling on both sides of your brain, right?
Yep. And
so they said, hey, Matt's in a state of coma. He's in a comatose state, and his brain is badly injured. And they said, we don't think he's going to survive the night. They're just like trying to be real with my family and all that. Brace yourself, because he likely won't make the night. You know, and only by the grace of God, I survived the night. And the next day, they had to do what I would call a reality check, right, where they find out, all right, is there really any hope here? You know, is there any reason to keep this going? Because at that point, I really was pretty much living on a system. The machine was breathing for me, and so my heart was still beating, obviously, because the machine is breathing for me, keeping everything rolling. And so they do what's called painful stimuli, because even in a comatose state, your body and brain and you should show some indication you're aware of pain.
Okay.
So they poke you and prod you, shake you, like inflict pain on you, hoping you'll at least flinch or show some kind of indication you're aware of that, right?
Yep.
And so they did that several times, and they got nothing. Like, I was just lifeless on the table, and they gathered up and met my family and said, "Hey, it doesn't look good at all, honestly." They're like, "He's showing zero response to our input." So we're going to try one last thing, though. We're going to hook a scan to Matt's brain. They said, with the scan in place on his brain, we're going to again inflict pain on him. They said, if he doesn't respond, if his brain doesn't show some response to pain, he said, we're in trouble. Then you hope that all his brain has to respond to our input, you know?
Yep.
And so they hooked the scan with my brain and began to again poke me and prod me, shake me, and they just got nothing. Or the scan was basically flatline, like no indication. Just to confirm it, the neurologist, one last thing he did was he picked up my left leg, my broken leg, my shattered femur, and not been treated yet, obviously, right? He picked it up off the table a little ways, just dropped it, let it free fall, and smacked the table.
Oh, my Lord.
And I don't think I got to tell you that would cause some pain, right?
Yeah, I would say.
That would, without doubt, right?
Without a doubt, yeah.
And watching the scan didn't show any indication I was even aware of that. And so he marched out with confidence to tell my family. He said, "I'm sorry." He said this. He said, "Short of a miracle, Matt will not be with us anymore." He said, his brain, he said he's breathing, so his heart's beating, but machine's doing that for him. You know, they said, as near as I can tell out of that, Matt is essentially brain dead. If we unplug the machine, he'll be gone. And so my family just sat there and just for a minute in shock, just processing that. My dad's an amazing man. He's become one of my best friends today, and he sat there for a minute. And he's a really. I'm sure in that moment he wasn't very calm. It was worked out, but he's a very calm mannered person. He said, "Jock, I'm sorry." He said, "Doc, I'm sorry, but I know if Matt were in my shoes, he would never give up on me this soon. I'm not ready to take that yet. I want a second opinion." And so the doctor reluctantly agreed, and he was pretty sure he was right, but he went down the hallway to find a different opinion. And so in that time frame, my dad went back to the waiting area, got to go to some of my closest friends, and put together a little prayer team of about 3 or 4 guys, 5 guys. I went in the room, laid hands on me again, just prayed for me. It's basically at this point, we're just begging God for mercy, you know?
Yep.
I mean, I'm essentially dead. And they've been there about an hour and a half. They're kind of like starting to accept reality. It was probably time to say goodbye, you know? But then a good friend of mine, John Hexton, if you watch very many films, you'll see him writing a few films too. He's a really, really good athlete.
Yep. I've seen his
He's
name.
a very strong believer in God too. And he was in the room and he said, "Guys, I'm alive, but I have this weird feeling like Matt knows we're in the room. Like he knows we're here. Why don't we see what happens if we try to even respond?" Sorry to drink a little bit of water, but he said, "Well, let's give it a shot if we try, right?" And so John got right in my face and yelled loudly, like, "Yes, permission to do it, I guess." He said, "Matt, it's John. If you can hear me, open your eyes." And I couldn't open my eyes, but to their shock, I fluttered my eyelids, you know. So they knew he heard us. I know he heard us, you know.
Yep.
And so eventually they said, "Matt, if you can hear me, raise your right leg." I couldn't raise my leg, but to their shock, I tried. They tell me leg moved a little bit, you know.
Yep.
And so they played around a little more, got me to lightly squeeze a hand, and so they knew there was some response to my brain, right? So like we definitely got something here. So they went and got the doctor. He came walking back in the room. He had what my dad described to be a poor bedside manner. He was, because he was pretty sure we were wasting his time, right? I mean, I was dead, you know.
Yeah.
And they said, "Doc, I think you responded. Watch this." And they eventually got me to lightly squeeze his hand. He didn't say much. He just like stepped back in the bed in shock. I mean, an hour and a half earlier, my brain did not respond to any input of any kind, you know.
Yep.
Here I was squeezing a hand, and so he gathered my family up at that point, and a couple of doctors met with him and just said, look, I know it's exciting. You know, Matt's had some signs of life. And he goes, look, it's our job to make sure you understand as a family that if he's in a comatose state, and we have no way of knowing if he's going to come out. And then they said, if he does, when he does, he will not be the same Matt you once knew. You know, they said there's hematomas on both sides of the brain, on top of some minor asphyxia, which is of course lack of oxygen in your brain.
Yep.
And they said those things combined are going to cause some brain damage. You won't be the same person you once knew. You know, so they said on top of that, looking at the scans of Matt's spine, there's a good chance if he does come out of this, he will never walk again, right? And so my family at that point, of course, they're shocked and they cried and they mourned that situation, of course. But they had like a deep. They told me they had like a deep sense that it was going to be okay. Like God had this, you know.
Yeah.
And they just began to just sat down in bed and just prayed and talked to me calmly and encouraged me. And a lot of time passed. 10 days into the coma, something pretty amazing happened that will never be forgotten in my lifetime or theirs. My boys are high school now, but they're much younger than. They're really young children. They're actually whatever age 1, 3, and 4. I think 1, 3, and 5.
Okay.
So very young. So they've been not allowed to see their dad yet 10 days into the thing because they're told Daddy got hurt real bad and just needs to sleep for a while, because they thought for them to see their dad hook tubes and hoses and wires and things like that would have been quite scary, right?
Yeah.
So they're told you can't see your dad yet, but they're told we can pick up the phone though. We'll call your daddy and see if we can hear you talk to him while he sleeps. And my oldest boy Connor spoke up saying, "No, we don't really want to call daddy and talk to him." And Mom was kind of shocked. She's like, "Why?" He said, "Because we want to call him and sing to him." So here's why. So before the avalanche, I was a musician. I used to play guitar a lot and sing a lot and do all kinds of old rock tunes and Christian tunes and worship tunes and all kinds of stuff. And so I used to sing along with my boys as much as they could, and they loved the sound of my guitar, and they sing along and dance. And their favorite song to sing along to was a song by Matt Redman called "You Never Let Go." A lot of you guys might be familiar with that, right?
Yep.
And so he says, their mom says, well, what song do you want to sing? He said, our favorite song, "Never Let Go," is their favorite song. And so they called in a cell phone, they put a cell phone in my ear, and they sang, you know, I'll sing off the course of the song. It says, "Oh no, you never let go, through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go, every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord, you never let go of me." So they sang it. They couldn't sing very good at that young age. They sang the best they could, and they sang out the chorus of the song. And I have no memory of it, none at all. But they recorded in my paperwork there. The doctors said there, the nurses recorded that I raised my eyebrows and tried to smile. So obviously I heard my boys singing to me. There's no question about that, right? I heard them.
Yep.
And from that point forward, began to show more signs of life, began to show more response to stimuli, and began to show more hope, right? And so I personally believe that while they sing that song, I believe a miracle happened in my body, you know. So, but a lot more time passed. I was in a coma for much longer. It wasn't until about day 27 I was able to respond to some people and actually show signs of life. It wasn't until day 41 they said I was officially out of comatose state, and the doctor was right. Like, I was not the same person. Like, they gave me a pen, asked me to write my name, and I couldn't write the alphabet, couldn't do nothing, you know. And they put some flashcards, numbers, and ABCs in front of me. I just couldn't process any of that yet.
Yep.
And so they began to just accept reality that it was going to be a long battle, right? And so my family just refused to lose faith. They just had groups. Like, they had groups all across the world praying for me, because my mom's family are world missionaries, and they had teams in India and a couple other countries praying for me as well. And so there's just thousands of people praying for me. And the fight just went on and on and on. I just began to, defy all the odds. And got to where I could eventually walk, which I didn't think I'd walk in. I had to walk with a cane for a long time, but I could walk. And I was doing things in physical therapy that I didn't think were possible. But the process went on. I was hospitalized for 88 straight days. And I don't think I got to tell you, the 88 days in hospital is kind of like being in prison for 3 months, pretty much. I mean, you're stuck in a facility, and I can't help myself, and I can't hardly. I mean, for a lot of that time, I was fed by a tube, and I was eventually fed by a nurse or somebody helped me. And there's a time period when my own brother, who has become one of my best friends, had to change my diapers and everything else. You know, it was crazy. So,
wow.
I went from being one of the best athletes in my kind of the world to being helpless. Can't even change my own diaper, you know. So.
Yep.
So 88 days later, I got to go home, and I went home to a world that did not know me anymore. And I didn't know my world. Like, I was not the same man at all. Like, you just go back to normalcy after that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I mean, I had to sit there in my chair at home going, wow, either I've got to embrace this or I'm going to dig a hole. I'm going to keep digging, right?
Yep.
And there's a great quote that says, when you find yourself in a hole in life, the first thing you better do is stop digging, right?
Yep.
So I just refused to. One thing that I did too is I refused to have any negativity in my life. Like, I didn't want to be around negative people. I didn't want to hear nothing negative. I want to hear no negative prognosis or negative predictions or nothing like that. I just refused to have anything but positivity in my life. And at that point, when I began to become more coherent, I guess you'd say, I guess I just began to hear the voice of God more and realize how much He loved me. That the fact at this point in time when I was really, really down on myself and I was crying, I was just like weeping, just going, I can't do this. I can't fight this fight. And I feel like I don't think I heard the audible voice of God at that point, but I heard like a still small voice in my head just saying, Matt, in your lowest low, when you're in a coma, when you're on your deathbed, when you can do nothing for yourself, completely helpless, you're valuable enough to me that I would let my son die for you, even if you're the only soul he was dying for, because you're that valuable. And man, talk about just life-changing to hear that from the voice of God, that I'm that valuable, that He would have died for me, even in a comatose, worthless state,
Yeah.
And so I began to realize my value and realize that I had at that point, we discovered that my arm was, we knew coming to the hospital that it was bad shape, but then we began to discover that it was completely paralyzed from the shoulder down. And so it still is today. And that's why my book is called Two Hands, because today I live without two hands. I went from being one of the best sets of hands behind handlebars of snowmobile to living life without two hands. But I've discovered that by the hand of God and the amazing people Who surrounded me with, that I'm never, ever without two hands,
Yeah.
And so at home, I just began to realize that I have to embrace life as it is and then believe I can make it better,
Yep.
And so I just took it one day at a time. I was doing physical therapy 2-3 times a week. And at that point, I was doing cognitive therapy for my brain and speech therapy for my speech really slurred in the very beginning. You notice now it's a miracle. Now I can speak pretty clearly.
Yep.
And I recorded an entire audiobook in my own voice, and I was able to do that. And the doctors at one point told my family I probably wouldn't ever speak fluently or normally ever again because my speech is really slurred for a long time. And now part of my living is I speak for a living, So
Yeah.
It's just a flat miracle. And so the journey at home was the longest part of the journey, just having to refigure life out. Like, how am I going to live within my new normal? Because it's not like because today, living with one arm, I don't talk about it much. I don't cry about it much. I don't complain about it much. because it's my new normal. That's normal for me, you know.
Yep.
I've learned how to live with one arm, but one of the biggest problems is I came home with unbelievable, intense nerve pain in my left hand, my paralyzed hand.
Okay.
And but really pretty much from my bicep down was really bad pain. The wrist was the worst part. My hand always burned. But so basically what happened is that whenever you damage your spinal cord like that at that location, the left arm nerves are right in the location where the spinal cord is damaged. And so it was sending a false signal from my spinal cord to my brain that says your hand burns, right?
Yep.
And so when that happens, it's a false signal, but it's very, very real, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's unreal. It's unbelievable. And so what was happening is you can't massage it, can't reposition it, can't move it, can't do anything with it because it's phantom, right? It's false. They call it phantom pain. And so it would burn 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop, just unbelievable burning. In the hospital, they had like a lot of IV medication and lots of pretty high-end medication stuff, and so I was able to bear it. But then when I got home, got back to more like an at-home dosage. It was brutal. Like we're talking, I can't even describe it to you because the only person who can understand it is somebody who's actually experienced it. Because the best way to describe it is like when you go outside and your hand gets cold.
Yep.
You come back inside, it gets warm too fast.
Yeah, get that tingling.
That burning times that by 20 in the ballpark, you know.
Oh.
And so all doctors tell me the remedy was that it's a complex injury and it's at your spinal cord, and all we can tell you is long-term medication. You know, that we have to put you on a long-term medication dosage that fits you. And I was drugged out of my mind to the point that I literally was like fog-minded. No, I knew I was that was part of my speech slurring, part of my cognitive ability was just because I was on so many drugs. You know, I was at one point, this kind of gives you an idea, I was on 8 hydrocodone,
oh my God,
a few Oxycontin, and a few Lyrical all in 24 hours.
You're floating on a cloud all day.
You're basically floating. Yeah, exactly. You have to have it. Like I cut it back as far as I possibly get to 6 hydros, and I was able to eventually kick the Oxycontin, but it was still, I was just in excruciating pain. And so sometimes I'd have these weird like pulsations, and mostly it was at night. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, these weird like pulsations where it'd burn really bad and pull back, and burn really bad and pull back. And I woke up one time about 2 a.m, and I had these unbelievable pulsations, and I was just weeping to the point I was just so burnt out and so tired and so sick of the fight that I was crying so much my pillowcase was damp. It was just bawling. I feel like I almost cried every tear out of my eye that night.
Wow.
And I finally, I at that point I just said F it, but I said the actual word, of course. I said F it, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I yelled at God. I cried out to God, and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I already kind of thought it through, and I made a firm decision that night to commit suicide, take my life. And I had already kind of thought through what I would do, and so I got my snowmobile gear bag out of the closet, and I was living by myself at this point. And so I got my gear out. I began to piece on my riding gear one piece at a time. I got my pants on and got my boots in place, and I was going to gear up. My plan was to gear up head to toe, all my riding gear. At that point, I was even driving, so I was somehow driving. I'm not sure if I was safe, but I was driving some, and so I was going to drive down the nearby big tall bridge over the Snake River. And we get out and all my riding gear, slide the helmet from the avalanche, the actual orange helmet that fell off my head in the avalanche, slide the helmet back on my head, and jump off the bridge. Naturally, in that condition with all this clothes on, I would drown. I would die.
Oh, that's horrible.
I said, what I said is, God didn't get the job right done the first time. I'm going to gear up and finish this. And so I was pulling my jersey into place to put on my top half, and right then God brought back a thought that I would say it stopped me not dead but alive in my tracks, you know?
Yeah.
that stopped me, because he brought back a thought of my middle son, Ethan, who at that point was really young. He loved dogs. Just absolutely loved them. He didn't have his own dog. Yeah, he has his own dog now, but he didn't have his own dog then. And so his grandparents, Black Lab, Sadie was like his dog. He took care of her and fed her and loved her. And recently, before the suicide thought, Sadie had died of old age. Ethan was just totally crushed. He's only 4 years old at this point. And so he's just crushed. Like, how can my dog be gone? Where's she at? Why is she gone forever? And just could not process death,
Yep.
And just one day, like 5 days after the dog had died, I found him by himself in his bedroom crying. And I went in there and said, "Buddy, what's wrong? Are you okay?" He goes, "Daddy, my doggy's gone. She's gone. She's never going to come back." And I tried to encourage him. I said, "Buddy, it's okay. I believe dogs go to heaven. I think she's in heaven. You can see her again someday." He said, "But Daddy, I don't want her to be in heaven. I want her to be here with me." And so God brought back that thought in the middle of that suicide, that I thought through the whole process of Ethan crying out for his dog. And I really feel like, people think I might be crazy, but I really feel like in that moment, that the only time in my life that I ever have, I think I heard the audible voice of God. Like, I think I really heard a real voice that very calm, very powerfully said, "Matt, his doggy's gone. He's crushed. What happens if his daddy's gone?"
Yeah.
And man, I fell back in the bed, began to weep, like unbelievable tears, just began to cry, just pour tears out, right? And I at that moment, I raced that plan to the drawing board. I mean, how can I be that selfish to relieve myself from my pain and leave my boys a lifetime pain missing their daddy,
Yeah.
And so, never has that plan been back on the drawing board since. I mean, I've had some bad moments, I've had some times, but never would I take my boys' daddy away, And I truly believe that. I can't describe to you how powerful the moment was. I really believe I heard the audible voice of God, like a real audible voice, and saved my life. And from that point forward, I mean, that was many, many years ago. It's been 14 years since the avalanche now, and I was just, I've just been taking one day at a time, and I've been slowly but surely getting where I can move again and shake again and walk in. And I started hiking some to have more exercise. My longest hike so far is 10 miles.
Oh, wow.
I mean, at one point they said I would never hike in my car to drive down the road. And now I hike 10 miles. I hike further if I want to,
Yep.
And I've since sold all my snowmobiles, and I've invested in a large pontoon boat, 24-foot party barge pontoon boat. And my family and I go out on the lake all the time, enjoy each other all the time. And my wife's just a gift, and I divorced from my boy's mother about only a couple months prior to the avalanche. So my life was kind of avalanche at that point,
Oh, wow.
And so her and I today get along pretty good. And she's remarried, I'm remarried. Life's pretty good, but I just choose to know that I have to focus on things I can change, right?
Yep.
Because I can't change the avalanche. I can't change how bad it crushed me. I can't change my paralyzed arm. I can't change my sore neck and messed up muscles. I can't, right? I just can't.
No.
And so I cannot afford to waste time, energy, emotion, and passion on things that I can't change.
No.
So I choose to focus on things that I can change, be the change I want to see, and keep on pressing on every day. And I always say that, in fact, one of the pages I had on the wall beside my bed in my at-home recovery, and I saw it every morning when I woke up, it was right beside my alarm clock. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, said in big bold print, "What can I do today better than I did yesterday?" And so I'd ask myself that question every day: what can I do a little bit better than yesterday? Like, even if it's only like a tiny fraction better, it's one little improvement, And so I just kept doing that, and honestly, I mean, today I live a totally normal life. I have a paralyzed arm, and I have a lot of soreness, and I can't run. I can't do all in the athletic stuff I used to do, but I'm walking and talking and moving and able to live life again. So every breath I breathe is a gift, So I guess that's my story in a nutshell. I mean, there's lots more to it, of course, but that's why you read the book.
Excuse me. Well, it's so refreshing to meet someone with such a positive outlook on life, despite, such a life-altering event. Something you wrote to me, our first correspondence really hit me, and I wanted to kind of share it with people here. You wrote, "The choices we make, not the circumstances we face, determine our success in life." Those are powerful words. They really resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with some of our listeners out there. It's in the power of prayer. I mean, wow, amazing how.
Oh man, 100%.
What prayer chains can really do for people. Whether you believe in God or not, and it's imperative to believe into something. I mean, you have to have something you hold on to.
Well, what I found too through it all is I found a relationship, not religion.
Yep.
I found a God that is not interested in whether I do or don't go to church, whether I do or don't sing the right songs, or I do or don't do this. I go to church because I love to share my life with other believers, but that's not what it's all about. It's about a daily walking, talking, moving relationship with the God of the universe, your creator. And so I got to experience that through stress and struggle and hardship, that God was always there. No matter what happened, I was never alone, and God was always there. He was always a prayer away, and it's just pretty cool to, you could talk to your blue in the face, you talk to the rest of your life about all the reasons why God doesn't exist. You're never going to convince me, because I experienced it in such a real way. It's pretty cool.
No, it's amazing that you're here, you're walking, talking, have a beautiful family, and it'd be interesting if you ever went back and talked to those same doctors that gave you the prognosis that you were basically done for.
It was pretty cool because I got to speak at a ski and mountain trauma conference when I was doing motivational speaking full time.
Okay.
I got to speak at the Ski and Mountain Trauma Conference in Sun Valley, Idaho. It was put on by St. Alphonsus Medical Center, which was the hospital I spent the majority of my time at. And so at the conference, I got to meet reconnect with some of my nursing staff, and my rehab doc was there.
That's awesome.
And so I got to sit down and have a glass of wine with him, just kind of visit a little bit. And he said, "Matt," he goes, "I don't know if I necessarily believe in God or not, because most of us doctors have to at least admit there's some kind of higher power."
Yep.
Because we see things like stories like yours that medical science cannot explain. He goes, on paper, you're dead. You're not here. You're gone. I mean, on the reports, on the machines, you're not here.
Yep.
And he goes, and here you are. So it was pretty proud to think that. It was so almost sad in a way that he'd say that I still don't know if I believe in God or not. That's the leap. But still, there's got to be some kind of higher power, because he said there's things that human science, human life, human intellect can't explain. So.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the power of belief. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. That was a lot too, is believing. I refused to believe the prognosis. Every time a doctor would tell me what I wasn't going to be able to do, or what I wasn't going to be able to say, how I wasn't going to be able to move this, move that, I would respectfully just going to say, okay. But I had this deep sense inside of me, deep belief that I wasn't done yet. I'm not done yet. I'm still going. I'm still going to keep on keeping on, And so.
Did you feel that you just had that drive to prove them wrong? Did you just feel like you had a burning desire? I need to prove these people wrong. I don't care what they say.
It wasn't that I wanted to prove anyone wrong. It was just that I wanted to give myself a better life. I just believed in my heart that there was something better for me, and I wasn't done yet. And I said, the deep calming peace that there was something okay. It wasn't like a passionate drive.
Okay.
It was like a deep calming peace. You know what I'm saying? So. Yep. But it was enough. It was enough for drive, of course, to keep me going, keep me working, keep me going. So because you have to have something to drive you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matt, for your profound insight and inspirational story today. If you're interested in Matt's book called Two Hands, you can find it on Amazon, and I'll have a link for it on my social media pages and platforms. Thank you, Matt.
It's also on Google Books, and it's on Barnes & Noble and places like that as well. But one of the things I also recommend is the on Audible. It's the audio version of the book. It's the same title, Two Hands.
Okay.
It's pretty neat because I narrated the entire book myself. It took me 85 hours.
Wow.
Recording and editing to make a 6-hour and 22-minute book. I went through it and we made it as perfect as we could. There's even a point that the song my boys sing to me in the coma, the studio version of that song, is mixed in as the theme song in the book. And then there's a point my boys all sing it as well in that book, so it's pretty special. So
that's awesome. Well, we'll definitely.
And then honestly, if you ever want me to come to your church and share my testimony or story, if you ever want me to come to your school, I mean, business conferences, anything like that, I'm happy to come. I mean, I do charge a fee, but with churches, I work it out really well for them. And even with businesses, I'm super reasonable, so I just keep it. I'm not in it for the money, I'm in it for the impact on lives. So that's right. Pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, we'll definitely put those links up for you, and hopefully people can get a hold of Matt. And here's an inspirational story. Thank you, Matt. If you like what you heard today, click the subscribe button to hear more upcoming stories. If you or someone you know have a survival story you'd like to share, contact me at isurvivethewildoutdoors@gmail.com.